So, back in December of last year, I uploaded a video of my upload schedule for 2019. During one of the segments, I hinted that I'd take inspiration from several YouTubers. One such YouTuber, JR Rizzo, has made several retrospectives on different Call of Duty Zombies seasons and maps, and one movie. I've always liked this retrospective style, and to test out how I feel about my own take on this, I decided to saddle up, crack my knuckles, and review a personal favorite game of mine, Lethal League. In videos like these, there's usually a brief history or overarching issues section about the game. Since Lethal League is a fairly small game, and I didn't start playing until the summer of 2019, I don't see that either of these sections would fit. Instead, I'll go over the game's main mechanics and move on to other aspects of the game, giving them each their own special section. I've had to summarize Lethal League to a lot of people that haven't seen, heard of, or played the game. When people ask me this, I usually say something along the lines of, Super Smash Bros, but you can only kill each other using the soccer ball item. I don't believe that this summary does the game justice at all, as the mechanics go much more in depth. But now that I have the word extensive in the title, I can make the summary as long and descriptive as it needs to be. In Lethal League, you play as one of 6 unique characters, each with their own special attacks. You have to hit a floating baseball into your enemy as the speed increases after each consecutive hit. Battles can feature up to 4 players at a time, and there's a multitude of game modes and modifiers to spice up the experience. Players can charge up their neutral attack to increase the ball speed, and use their directional keys or joystick to decide the ball's direction. This part of the game is kind of problematic, since there's no way to telegraph which direction the ball will go after it is launched. Punts are also useful to fake out your enemies. There seems to be some weird way that the game tricks your brain by making it think that the ball will move at its base speed after a punt. This is obviously not the case and can lead to some very surprising moments if the game gets intense. Since each hit makes the ball move exponentially faster, games can reach very high levels of intensity, requiring frame-perfect inputs to keep the fights going. The ball can reach insanely high speeds. I've seen some games go to speeds of higher than 64 miles, I think, per hour. Not entirely sure of the units that are used for the ball's velocity, since the game never discloses it, so just slap a citation needed on there. The intensity is also shown via the stage's darkening, changing scenery, and, if the ball reaches 1000 miles per hour, inverting the stage and characters' colors. So that sums up Lethal League, but here are some small fun details that I think just heighten the experience. After a player is hit by the ball, another player, if quick enough, can hit their body to rub some salt in the wound. There are small dynamic shadows for the ball and characters. Players can use their directional inputs and taunt key to taunt players with graffiti sprays, accompanied by a cool hip-hop sound effect. Now that we have the summary wrapped up, we can move on to I and many players' favorite part of the game, aside from the core gameplay, the characters. No great game is complete without intriguing characters, except for Lethal League. Now I'm not going to complain too much about the characters' lack of motives or ideals, since it is a fighting game, and Smash Bros doesn't even logically make sense, much less from a narrative standpoint. Anyway, I would have liked to see at least some sense of lore surrounding the characters. Even when searching the wiki, all I could find was that Candyman had a mutation, Latch is big brain, and Dice is a Buddhist. The only character in the game that has an actual reason given for why they compete is Sonata, who competes to increase her fame and notoriety. Giving the other characters some motives would have been really easy and added a lot to the characters. Like they could have said that Candyman fights because he's lost his mind, is criminally insane, and his insanity causes him to harm innocents who challenge him. Alright, I've rambled too much about story gripes. Let's move on to the gameplay differences. Each character has their own unique physical movement abilities and special powers. Raptor is able to wall jump and wall slide, as well as hit the ball twice by using special power. Raptor's home stage is supposedly the industrial outskirts. All hail Headbang Room. The only other stuff I could dig up about Raptor is that he hails from the south and is fairly new to the Lethal League scene. Switch is Raptor's friend and an ex-working class robot, hence why his preferred home stage is supposedly the state manufacturing facility. Switch can use a skateboard to ride the walls and ceiling until the other side is reached. This can be used to get a smash attack when the ball is high, and characters like Dice and sometimes Latch can't reach it. Switch's special is by far one of the most confusing. Switch can activate a special by jumping, and jumping again midair, crouching, then hitting jump, and hitting the jump button during an overhead smash's hit lag. After landing a successful specialist switch, the ball will move at a shallow, predetermined angle that can only be manipulated to go left or right. Or you can just bunt because the wiki says it's good. Candyman, according to the wiki, is jazzy, expressive, and crazy. Apparently, Candyman was exposed to some sort of mutation after either possibly being a drug dealer or a candy salesman. This mutation somehow made him into the most widely used character in Lethal League. This mutation also allows him to change the chemical composition of certain objects, in turn allowing him to have moon boots, have a jawbreaker, and use his special endlessly. Candyman's home stage is Room 21, which pretty much confirms his criminal insanity. I don't know how though. Ordinary Days is a magnificent track. Props to Klaus V. Candyman is also the oldest confirmed character. Overall, Candyman is basically the ideal character for literally everyone. Does this mean I'm the filthy casual? Nah. Sonata is a typical popular girl who fights to increase her fame in the Lethal League scene. She wields the mighty hammer of Valhalla, which she uses to hit the ball multiple times and potentially go on infinitely. Sonata's ability allows the player to use their directional keys to move the ball into random places. This makes matchups with Sonata, unless I'm playing her, completely unpredictable. Sonata also makes use of a double jump, but she ain't got nothing on my boy's moon boots. Sonata's home field is the city streets. I mean, she's popular, so I was gonna say something about the IRL section on Twitch, but I wrote this part of the script half past midnight, so I can't remember what I was going to say. I have a friendly love and a passionate hatred for Latch players. Let's cover the latter first, since that's actually because of gameplay reasons. Latch is able to climb walls and play Pong during a match, which can actually make for some fun games. Latch has an average jump, but just climb. Just climb. Unless the ball is in the middle of the field, all you need to do is climb. Latch's special ability is why I hate this character. Latch just straight up eats the ball, and the Latch player has control of when the ball is let go, or the timer on his gag reflex can run out. I do have to commend you though, devs. You actually made it so Latch telegraphs his attacks by showing which direction the ball is going to go. Latch's home stage is the underground sewer system, since he's a disgusting creature. Now for why I love Latch players. Latch is big brain, and likely the player using him is too. Also, I just call Ben a furry all the time because he plays Latch. I'm pretty sure the term is scaly, but screw it. Dice is the only character that has a full name, Hans Incel. I'm just going to call him Hans because Hans is the fastest boy of the bunch, but lacks in his jump game. He literally just does a short hop. Luckily, you can crouch and jump for some extra height. Hans's ability is absolutely bonkers. Hans can use directional inputs to decide if he wants the ball to travel in a wide or shallow arc, follow the ceiling, or hit the floor and travel in the aforementioned shallow arc. Dice was added post-release, and he's pretty enthusiastic about it, literally just yelling, "Let's roll!" every time that he is selected. Dice's home stage is the Hammer Express, even though it should obviously be the abandoned pool, and you're wrong if you think otherwise. So, despite how much I love these characters, I do have some nitpicks about them. Due to Raptor's bunting animation remaining the same for a downward bunt, he appears to hit it upward, but the ball still travels downward. In Switch's profile background, Switch's chassis appears all blue when this style is completely absent from the game. Candyman's sprite sheet fails to reuse similar colors, which makes making a color palette very hard. This problem may also appear for other characters, but I haven't looked at their sprite sheets yet. Candyman is referred to as Candy Dandy by his sprite sheet, but not in-game. Sonata twists her hammer during her bunt animation. How does this even work? Latch flashes a thumbs up during his taunt, while the characterization and line said would point towards him instead flashing a finger gun. Latch bites the ball to bunt it. Alright, I quit. Dice backhands the ball with his paddle during his bunt animation. This, in theory, would launch the ball. Except it doesn't. So, after you've gotten tired of online's frequent disconnecting, you can play challenge mode in the extras category. You start off by fighting Raptor. His AI level is fairly low, making this fight a cakewalk for skilled players. You then move on to Switch. The AI has steadily improved, and I have lost few stocks to him on several occasions. Afterward, you initiate a team battle against Sonata and Raptor. You yourself have an AI Switch on your team, which is fairly aggressive, so the player can maintain a defensive role for an easy win or a hard-fought victory. Next up on the list is Latch. The AI really tests your skill in this fight, and you often go neck and neck with stocks. I've had to use a retry on Latch's fight once before, and it may very well happen again. After Latch comes my boy Candyman. Candyman's AI is brutal, but forgiving enough that I've never had to use a retry on him. Switch and Latch are picking fights, but not in a team battle. You instead play a point match against the two fighters. Latch usually has a great amount of points, but I've seen Switch be the leading man before. This battle is usually when you'll use your first or last retry. Sonata's fight is as obnoxious as it is readable. Sonata mainly jumps around and will only hit the ball if it goes towards her. She never really seems to seek out hitting the ball. Dice is of course the second last to challenge you, and is at around the same skill level of Sonata. Dice is more challenging though, and his attacks are very unpredictable, and his special is one to be reckoned with. And now for the final fight. You are challenged by yourself. At the end of challenge mode, you fight a mirrored version of yourself, a shadow or silhouette, one might say. The first thing I and many players noticed in this fight is how the enemy would mirror basic movements such as jumping or running. I've even had a Switch shadow mirror his special attack during the fight. This fight can get very intense and you might run out of retries. But you didn't think it would just end there, did you? For those skilled enough to make it through every challenger, you are sent back to the industrial outskirts. The speedometer at the bottom begins to rumble to life, and Doombox initiates a battle with you. Doombox fights you using a big ball, which makes this fight harder because of the bigger hurt box. This fight is complemented by Zero Scar's song Doombox, which is the best thing since sliced bread, and you're wrong if you say otherwise. All of this makes an epic and brutal battle that I have sadly not seen in any top 10 list. But how could I forget? This beast is actually playable! By selecting the characters in the order I specify, you'll be shown as a random character but actually be playing Doombox in-game. Simply select Sonata, Raptor, Switch, Candyman, Raptor, Dice, then Latch. Doombox is only playable in Versus and Challenge, so unless you have Parsec or friends nearby, there is no way to utterly destroy your friends with Doombox. As for Doombox's moveset, it is actually lacking compared to other characters. Doombox is without an aerial smash attack, and his directional moves are nothing special either. Doombox does, however, have the ability to hover in place using the jets on his feet, Doombox's attacks pack a much larger punch than any other characters, and allow you to reach top speeds much more easily. Doombox's special attack looks like Sonata's, but actually just tracks the player and locks the ball onto them. If you are playing with normal ball size, this attack is avoidable, but if you are playing with larger beach ball sizes, then you will need to react fast and hit the ball. Overall, Lethal League is one of those classics that you just want to grab a few friends and tear it up with. However, the sequel brought many improvements and new innovations to the game, so I'd recommend picking up Lethal League Blaze as well. All of the music in the background is from the game, and I will leave a link to the soundtrack down in the description, along with a link to JR Rizzo's channel, as he is the one who inspired me to make this review. Alright now, roll the credits.